Hello, dear soul, and welcome to the Lightbearer's Library. In today's journal entry, I want to talk about trusting ourselves. The context for this is about, living in this crazy world of, social media and news and what to trust, what not to trust, and how can we discern what is true, what is false, what is important for us and not important for us. And I think it's an important question for us to each answer. And I think we need to start building trust within ourselves. I think one of these ideas that I've been thinking about a lot, and a great example of this is in the news. I'm not on social media, and I try not to pay attention to the news because it's just crazy. So, but I did see or hear that, there's been a couple of people who have stepped down from the BBC and over reports, allegations, leaks, of being biased or they edited a clip of Trump's speech. I mean, that's pretty big. But, this idea of being an unbiased source of information. And I don't think that there is such a thing as being unbiased. So I think this can be a freeing thought to kind of explore the idea that there is no unbiased news story, no unbiased opinion. Everything is biased. So we need to take responsibility in our own lives to asking questions, to doing our own research, to especially if it's a topic that we feel is relevant to our own lives. I think a lot of things out there, it's not really relevant to our own lives, and I think we'd be better off dismissing it and not as people say, like doom scrolling or whatever. It's like, if it's relevant to your life, then it's worthwhile to put in the effort to do our own research. So kind of some thoughts I had about being biased or unbiased is that, if we think about our own selves and, we don't want to be biased, right? So we all kind of think, we're trying to tell people things in an unbiased way, but we all have, I like to bring in personality theory of we all have different ways of perceiving the world, right? Some people perceive more through their senses, and some people perceive more through their intuition. And so they're sensing things differently. If you talk to or listen to any police investigators, they'll interview 5 people who saw the same incident happen, and each 5 of them have different perspectives on what happened. They all saw the same thing, but they're seeing things differently, they're hearing things differently, there's kind of different perspectives, and then obviously there's also memory that comes about. Like if you ask those same people, a year or 2 or 5 years later, they'd have a different memory of what happened potentially. That's a thing. It's called, when memory kind of can shift and change what actually happened. And so right there, we all have a different bias of when we observe things. And then when we go to tell that story, if we think about ourselves telling our boss, telling our mother, or telling our telling a 10-year-old child a story, it's going to be shaped and kind of molded differently to the audience. So that's also a bias. Can think about so I just had a few notes. Yeah, and then think about if your paycheck is coming from a news organization on, how you tell that story. It's then you're going to make sure that story fits in with your news editor or whatever the the angle is of the news station or whatever that you're a part of. So everything comes from a biased lens. And I think the only way that we can start to, I don't know, feel confident in this crazy world is to come back to ourselves and rely more heavily on our own direct experience of things. I remember my husband was reading a book about the Piraha. It's an Amazonian hunter-gatherer tribe that's around today. And he was telling me about how they rely only on direct experience. So there was a missionary that came to them and was, trying to tell them about things that happened in our world, and, and the Piraha were saying, oh, well, do you know this person? And the guy said, no, I don't know him. And the Piraha said, oh, well, do you know someone who knows that person and the story? And he's like, no, I read it in a book. And the Piraha just laughed and they kind of just shrugged it off. It's kind of like, meh. So I think we should be more like them. It's like, if we directly experience something, it's like we know for ourselves that that's true for us. And I think if someone we trust tells us something that happened to them, I think we can trust that information too. But when it kind of goes beyond that, how do we know that that thing happened? And how do we know it happened the way that we were told it was happened? How do we know, so I think it's really, really important to be very critical and skeptical about what we hear on social media and the news. And that's at least what I've learned over the last 5-10 years is, take stuff in, think about it. If we want to, hold on to that opinion or news story as being true, then maybe we should do some of our own research and dig into, all the opinions and all the views. We have to do the hard work. But what I'm coming to say is that we should just trust ourselves more to discern whether something is true or is worth looking into whether it's true or not, and stop relying on other people, other news sources, other things. I think that's what we need to do in this world, is take responsibility. And I think we'd be maybe a little bit more sane. I don't know, inside our own selves. And that's why for me, I don't really listen to the news or watch the news. I'm not on social media because it's crazy making. So you can be less crazy. Is what I'm maybe offering. And just be a little bit more calmer inside of ourselves. And there is no such thing as unbiased news anywhere in the world. So whether it's the BBC, here in Canada we have the CBC, among all sorts of other news organizations. And it's like, none of them are unbiased, right? There's no such thing. So, take it, leave it. That's just my, my thought. And, if you found this helpful, give me a thumbs up. If you have had your own experiences with, direct experience is the way to go, then leave me a comment if you're feeling brave, and I'd love to have a conversation with you. And subscribe to the Lightbearer's Library, where I talk about all things about, trying to keep our humanity and keeping our sanity. That's important. Okay, well, I'm wishing you many, many blessings wherever you are in the world. Signing off for today, XOXO Kate.